Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Thursday. C-Win also our very special guest in studio. Quick reminder, coming up at the bottom of the hour, Larry Hadfield from Las Vegas Metro Police will be joining us. Boy, do we have a lot of topics to get to with him, including a tragic story about a war veteran who lost his eye and was assaulted in a bus in Las Vegas, and now the person or the animal, whatever you want to call him, that assaulted him is on the loose. So we'll get some information, try to find this bastard. Las Vegas Metro's PIO, Larry Hadfield. And then hour number 3, we have an exclusive interview with Todd McMurtry. Now, who is Todd McMurtry? He is the lawyer for the Sandman family, Nicholas Sandman. You remember, he just got a settlement from CNN in regards to their coverage of him and some of his friends and students in that whole volatile situation that took place. So he's going to be joining us in hour number 3 as well, as long as Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports. So we were talking, obviously, about the Iran situation. We talked about the plane crash. We talked about the imminent threat, supposedly, by General Salami. Well, some people are making news, some on the left who I do not agree with, and one of them who I do not think should be representing anybody is Ilhan Omar. I am not a fan of Ilhan Omar. I think she said some anti-Semitic things in the past. I don't think she's extremely intelligent. I think she's a moron. I want you to listen to this audio because now she is saying, you're not going to believe this, guys. She's saying she has PTSD over this Iranian attack. That's right, PTSD. Have a listen to this.
I feel ill a little bit because of everything that is taking place, and I think every time I hear about conversations around war, I find myself being stricken with PTSD, and I find peace knowing that I serve with great advocates for peace and people who have shown courage against war.
Okay, first of all, does Ilhan Omar even know what PTSD is? The people that are serving overseas, the people that actually see death, the people that on October 1 that were at the shooting that killed 58 people, those are the people that have PTSD. Ilhan Omar is a congresswoman who says a lot of stupid things, who I think is a moron.
But Brian, do we know about what about her history as far as when she was a youngster in Somalia? Was she exposed to some type of you're making a quick jump here.
Okay.
She might have had some type of experiences.
She has never. First of all, she came to this country when she was 3. Okay, am I wrong on that?
I thought she came when she was like 12 or 11 or 12.
Okay, I might be wrong on that.
I think you are, yeah.
But she did not reference that when she made these statements. She said every single time she hears about this attack, she has PTSD. Guess what?
Well,
I don't want to hear, as a congresswoman, I don't want to hear about her PTSD. I want to hear about the people that are on the front lines that are serving our country that have PTSD. She is a congresswoman who has assistants and sits at a desk. I don't want to hear about her comments about how she's suffering.
That's a little bit insensitive, I think.
I don't think it's insensitive at all.
If she did have experiences as a child in Somalia that were traumatic, that would lead to some kind of issue with PTSD,
yeah, but you would think
then
that
it's absolutely legitimate. Then.
I get that, but you would think that she would mention that in this particular situation.
Well, she went on Twitter.
And she did not.
Well, she did on Twitter. Here's what she said on Twitter. Okay. She said, I survived war as a child and deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, much like many who have served or lived through war. It's shameful that you as a member of Congress would erase the PTSD of survivors. Now, there was a congressman that went after her for this. Here's the point I'm trying to make. And in no way, shape, or form do I want to, and maybe I misspoke, in no way, shape, or form do I want to say that, she didn't suffer as a child for some of the atrocities that she may or may not have seen, okay? Here's what I'm trying to say. She now serves us. She is a congresswoman. And whether she actually does have PTSD or not, I don't want to hear about her struggles right now, okay? You can talk about that at another time. But in the days and hours after this attack, and in the days and hours after our troops are now put in harm's way and there are people serving overseas, I don't want to hear about Ilhan Omar's PTSD. I do not think I am insensitive in saying I want her talking about the threat. I want her talking about policy. I want her talking about the president and his actions. I don't want to hear about her PTSD. Guess what? If she's struggling that badly from PTSD, then it could affect her judgment. And I don't want her serving in Congress. That is how I feel about Ilhan Omar. But there is somebody actually on the right who I want to speak of as well, and that is Lindsey Graham.
Hey, by the way, Omar moved here when she was 9.
Yeah, 1992.
Yeah.
So she wasn't. Yeah, she wasn't 3 years old. So so she could have absolutely had experiences in Somalia that could lead to issues with PTSD.
Doesn't change my
opinion. I'm just trying to point that out. I mean, we want to make sure we're factual here as far as
doesn't change my opinion in what I said. This
why
is the wrong
she could
time.
absolutely have suffered from PTSD when it comes to experiences of her early life in Somalia.
And that very well might be possible, but at the same time, when we could be facing a war, I don't want to hear her talking about her own PTSD because of her own experiences. Right. As a congresswoman, she's serving us, and I don't think it's appropriate at this time to be talking about that.
And if she can't handle that conversation, because it's a conversation that's going to come up every 4 to 8 years in the United States, and it's been that way for the last.
Then don't be a congresswoman.
She's giving her personal perspective,
then maybe she's in the wrong position.
Yeah. By the way, no matter what she saw as a child, you take out an evil, murderous terrorist, whether the actions of Donald Trump were right or wrong, I don't want to hear how that brings her PTSD. You know what brings me PTSD? 9/11, seeing innocent people lose their lives. That's what brings me stress.
I can see where you're going there, but I'm just simply trying to point out that we need to be sympathetic to if she did have issues as a child that would lead to symptoms of PTSD. You don't want to you don't want to talk flippantly about that, because it's something that could be very real. And by the way, you guys talked about you don't want to hear it. It's her perspective, right? She's an elected lawmaker in Minnesota.
If that's the case, then if she can't handle conversations about war, there's 50 wars going on right now in the world,
well,
all over the place. I'm sure she hears about war all the time. Why is she singling out this particular one? Because she wants attention.
And I would like to move on.
There is a sense of over drama right there.
Absolutely.
There is that kind of sense where
very theatrical.
They're seeking
theatrical
drama.
I'd like to move on, but my response to my response to Ilhan Omar would say, well, it's just all about the Benjamins. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Lindsey Graham, because Lindsey Graham, to me, he has sold his soul to the devil. I had a lot of respect for Lindsey Graham back in the day. No longer. Senator Lindsey Graham is now comparing the Donald Trump Iran speech yesterday to Ronald Reagan's Berlin Wall speech. Have a listen to this.
But here's the good news. The president made a very bold decision today to allow things to calm down. This speech will be talked about long after his second term. This is on par with tear down this wall, Mr. Gorbachev. This is resetting the relationship between the world and Iran, just not the United States. The president said there's an evil empire in Iran that's bent on destroying the world, killing the people in Israel and coming after us, and I will no longer tolerate it. So this is on par with Reagan's tear down this wall speech.
There it is. The ass-kisser Lindsey Graham once again performing fellatio on the President of the United States. And let's hear a little bit about that Ronald Reagan speech. Okay, he compared the Donald Trump speech yesterday to the Reagan speech, tear down this wall. Remember this? This is Ronald Reagan back in 1987.
General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
All right, we don't need to hear the crowd cheering and all that.
Keep in mind that Reagan was a former radio host.
Hold on. Okay, now let's listen to Donald Trump.
Well polished.
Okay, hold on. Now let's listen to Donald Trump. Remember, Lindsey Graham is the guy that said that Trump's speech yesterday was very similar to Ronald Reagan. Here's Donald Trump. Here's just a couple things he said yesterday.
The civilized world must send a clear and unified message to the Iranian regime. Your campaign of terror, murder, mayhem will not be tolerated any longer. It will not be allowed to go forward. Today, I am going to ask NATO to become much more involved in the Middle East process. Over the last 3 years, under my leadership, our economy is stronger than ever before, and America has achieved energy independence. These historic accomplishments change our strategic priorities. These are accomplishments that nobody thought were possible.
Can somebody get him a ventilator, please? He's out of breath.
Is this guy snorting Adderall before the speech?
He obviously doesn't have the greatest lung capacity, clearly.
Well, okay, hold on.
And I think he was trying to just get his speech out without going off on a tangent. Like he typically does, and just breathing. And he breathes 5 times there.
Is there anybody?
I actually saw something on the internet that claimed that he sniffed He sniffed 58 times during that speech.
It seemed like
and
he had
Trump Adderall, Trump Crush Adderall. That's what's going on. That's where the left wing media is now. That's where they've been left.
Okay, but hold on.
And instead of recognizing the good things he's doing, they're trying to point out how he is not explaining the good things he's doing in the right way.
Okay,
because the
let
left
me
wing
respond to
expects
that.
perfection.
Let me
and it's an absolute embarrassment and a joke.
Okay, I'll tell you what's an embarrassment and a joke, JD. When
What?
you have an idiot.
When the president sniffs? Is that a problem, Brian? Do you have a problem with someone sniffing?
Can
He
I
was sucking
respond?
wind, wasn't he? He's sucking wind.
Both you guys let me know when. Okay. Here's what I have a problem with. Here's what I think is an embarrassment. When somebody compares, and by the way, I'm not a huge Ronald Reagan guy. When somebody compares one of the most historical speeches of all time, in this case, it would be the Ronald Reagan speech in 1987.
No, it's Charlie Chaplin.
Okay, let me finish. When somebody compares that to the Donald Trump speech last night, the real true embarrassment here is Lindsey Graham. He has sold his soul to the devil. He is a complete moron who wears the Donald Trump knee pads. Maybe that is one of his fantasies. I don't know. I guess it's possible. But with that being said, that is what is the listen. I'm not going to sit here and seriously say that I think Donald Trump had a stroke during that speech. It might have sounded like it. I'm not going to sit here and say that he snorts Adderall every day, but it certainly sounded like it. But the truth of the matter is that Lindsey Graham is a guy that is comparing Donald Trump's speech yesterday to Ronald Reagan's speech in 1987, tear down the wall, and that is absurd.
Obviously, he's sensationalizing it. It's not as good of a speech. It wasn't as big of a threat. Iran isn't Russia.
Why don't we compare it to the Martin Luther King speech?
I get it. It wasn't a great comparison. And Reagan, again, he's polished. He's a radio host.
I have a dream that we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Oh my God! It's like the Martin Luther King "I have a dream" speech. It's incredible. Oh my God!
Making fun of this guy just because he's sniffing. He's 73 years old.
No, I'm making fun of Lindsey Graham.
I get that. That's fine. But I'm talking about how the entire left-wing media is making fun of Trump. Instead of just recognizing the fact that he is doing good things, they're not happy with the way that he's delivering the fact that he's doing good things. It's not up to their standard and their par because they're elitists who actually know nothing and accomplish nothing.
But JD, you have to admit, it is rather funny.
Why is it funny?
It's rather funny that Republicans and Lindsey Graham in specific are lauding Donald Trump for the speech, and I had the guys like breathing heavy and jacking up words in the speech. Yet they'll flip right around and say Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, too old to be president, don't have the stamina, don't have the ability. But then you have to watch what went down yesterday morning.
There's a big difference.
You know what I'm talking about, though.
The difference between a gaffe, and a guy just having problems breathing,
not being able to say words that are common words that he can say easily every day. Usually,
he said 90 words in that speech, and he messed up one of them.
No, he had a whole sentence where it was like a word salad debacle that nobody could understand.
I couldn't hear it because you guys were making your great onomatopoeia in the background. So myself and the audience over your onomatopoeia couldn't hear exactly what he was saying.
You can go back and check out the video.
Would you like
There's a couple spots where
would you like to hear that eloquent speech again? And let me just remind you that it was Ronald Reagan's speech, the Berlin Wall, that is not arguably, it was one of the most famous addresses of the 20th century. Okay? Make no mistake about it. That's exactly what it was. And we're not talking about Donald Trump's, speech. I guess you could public speaking. We had a little fun with his hiccups in that speech. But the main reason why we're talking about this, and by the way, JD, we wouldn't be talking about it if Lindsey Graham didn't make another Donald Trump fellatio comment, because that's what we're talking about here. Lindsey Graham has sold his soul to the devil. I used to have a lot of respect for this man, and I think many people on the right and the left did. And I think if you're intellectually honest, you say that Lindsey Graham has no backbone. He literally has no backbone now. And to go on national television, this wasn't even a local show like ours. To go on national television and to compare Donald Trump's speech yesterday to the Ronald Reagan speech in 1987 is one of the dumbest comparisons I have ever heard in my life. Like I said, if Donald Trump says we're going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it, the million speeches he made, and he said that, let's compare it to Martin Luther King. Why don't we just do that? To me, it's at that level. JD, that's what I'm talking about. We're talking about people on the right, idiots like Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell. Don't even get me started with Mitch McConnell. He went into the White House yesterday. That's right. Donald Trump talks about the do-nothing Democrats. How about the do-nothing useless turtle, Mitch McConnell, who has done nothing? He's got about 140 bills that are on his desk right now. They're just sitting there while innocent people are dying. Mitch McConnell is doing nothing to benefit this country. Another ass kisser of the president. I'm tired of people like the Lindsey Grahams of the world. I'm tired of people like the Mitch McConnells of the world. And I think it's very important to speak out about it when somebody like a Lindsey Graham says something that is utterly ridiculous. John McCain is spinning in his grave right now. He was very close to Lindsey Graham. And even John McCain's daughter, who I can't stand on The View, even said how disappointed her father would be of Lindsey Graham's behavior and his actions since John McCain passed away. It is a joke, and it is a sad joke. And the fact that Lindsey Graham, according to him, Donald Trump can do no wrong is disgusting.
I think it's a much bigger joke that left-wing media right now is trying to attack Donald Trump because of how he's delivering speech is not up to their standard.
Okay,
I think that's a much bigger joke.
So what
than
quote on
Lindsey
CNN
Graham
or MSNBC
and
are you
John
referring
McCain
to?
And Meghan McCain and how they feel about Lindsey
but
Graham.
when you make a general statement like the left, give me a specific quote or somebody that you heard on TV.
Are they attacking? They're not necessarily attacking.
Look on Twitter right now. People are saying that Trump is addicted to Adderall. He snorts Adderall. He's addicted to cocaine, all because he was sniffing during a speech.
Okay, so let me ask you this then.
You know, when I'm sick,
define people.
I had a cold 3 days ago, and I missed a show one of these days. And before that, the reason I missed the show that day was because I had a cold, and I was actually out of breath my last hour.
But hold on a
when I'm
second.
sick, sometimes it's difficult to talk as often as I do. And the same thing can apply to a president. I'm 34. He's 73.
But you said Democrats, and then you said people on Twitter. There is a fine line between prominent
left-wingers on Twitter.
Who cares? There's right-wingers on Twitter, too.
I'm saying
We're talking about actual politicians like Lindsey Graham. I don't care about people on Twitter.
I'm saying, but look at what is trending right now on Twitter in regards to Trump. It's all about how many times he's sniffing.
But Jay, it's just a response, JD, to what the president's speech was yesterday. We all watched it. We all saw it. We all have eyes. We all have ears.
JD,
it's just
here's
a
what I'm
reaction,
asking
JD.
you.
It's not. I don't necessarily would say it's
JD.
the left attacking the president. It's just it's kind of a flippant thing.
JD,
It's
absolutely left
you
attacking the president.
You understand what I am asking you now.
It's the left, looking for any possible outlet and reason to discredit Donald Trump.
But you understand what we are doing.
They don't like Donald Trump. That's why they do that.
No matter what,
they don't like him.
No matter what he is doing good for the country, and that to me is a giant problem.
Okay, I also
and that's why our show is successful, because we give both sides of the equation.
Okay, but if you can find me, we can discuss it later on, a prominent Democrat or even a Democrat that is in Congress, a politician that is saying that the president is on drugs and Adderall, I will gladly entertain that conversation. But I don't care what's I don't care what's trending on Twitter, because Kim Kardashian's ass could be trending on Twitter. I don't care. I don't care if people are saying people say ridiculous things about me all the time on Twitter, right? I'm not trending, thank God.
Not
that important.
Not hundreds of thousands after you've done something well, Brian.
There's extremists on both sides of the aisle. We're not talking. So here's the difference. What you're talking about, what I'm talking about. You're talking about people on Twitter. I'm talking about Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell.
I got you. You knew who actually might have actually echoed that sentiment would have been John Dingell. That's all he did, was he would attack Donald Trump via Twitter based on what other people thought about him.
I can't believe he just brought up Dingell,
I mean, I get that. That's but we're talking. The reason why we're talking about it now is because Brian brought it up. It's a prominent lawmaker in Lindsey Graham, who is lauding the president with praise about a speech and comparing it to an actual speech that was actually great.
And I said,
and that's why
that was sensationalized, and that he's obviously going over the top there. And I think I agree with you. That's a ridiculous claim.
All right, fair enough. Let's take some phone calls on this, 702-257-5396. Why don't we start off with Kevin? Kevin, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. What's on your mind?
What's up, Kevin?
Hey, guys. Still love the show. It's
Thank
wonderful. You. Republicans lose their mind. It's great. JD, I got a question for you.
What's up, Kevin?
So the Democrats are picking on Trump for breathing. But where was the substance in his speech? If he actually would have some substance in his speech, they would follow him and say, hey, that's wonderful. There was nothing there.
JD, respond to that.
You don't think saying instead of going to war, we're going to do strict economic sanctions on Iran as substance?
Okay, so how is that different than last week?
Let me keep in mind that when Trump was made president of the United States, the conversation was that he was going to actually start World War III. He was the guy with the orange hair, and the big temper was going to sit behind the nuke button and press the red button and end the world. He was the Antichrist. And now he's saying, no, I don't want to go to war. I'm actually interested in economic sanctions. And you hear nothing about that.
So
to me, that's a lot of substance. The fact that he said that, considering what everybody expected him to do when he first became president of the United States.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, so you put sanctions on him, which are clearly working. Then you kill the second in command without consulting any of our what used to be partners in the world. And then you say, oh, yeah, by the way, we want to sanction them again? Second of all, okay, in his speech he says, what was it, NATO, China, Germany, France need to participate in sanctioning Iran? Aren't they doing that already?
So I think what you're saying. I think what you're saying.
The United States is the only one who stepped away from the nuclear agreement.
I think what you're saying.
All the other countries are sitting there saying, "Hey, you know what? This works."
So I could be wrong, but I think what you're trying to say is there's like a circular firing squad by Trump. It's like he creates a crisis and then he, takes steps to try to tone down that crisis, and now he wants to take credit for, actually doing that when in fact he was the one who actually started it.
Wait, he struck down?
And was he the second in command in Iran? Yes, but he was also a terrorist. Right. The United States considered him a terrorist. He led an elite group of soldiers in Iran that started in 1982, and last time I checked, Chris, Trump didn't start the Iran-Iraq War in 1982. He didn't force Soleimani to create this group of elite special forces. He also didn't say, "Hey, Soleimani, please attack the embassy."
Let's try to take a few more calls before we go to break. Let's go to Brady. Brady, you are next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
What's up, Brady?
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. I would never in a million years give Grandma Nancy any kind of military information. Can you imagine, here you got a guy with a drone flying over Iraq. You got Soleimani in your air, right in your sight, and you got to get on the phone and call Grandma Nancy? Come on, people. We're not fighting wars like we're back in the caveman days. And if you're an Iranian bomb maker, we're going to blow the hell right out of you. No more discussion.
So Brady might be a tad oversimplifying the process and the procedure in which lawmakers are supposed to be notified by Donald Trump and the administration. With your comment right there, it might be just a little bit.
Obama did his 3,000 drone strikes, he never consulted with Congress once.
Hey Brady, what did you say during the Iraq War when George W. Bush started an ill-advised war? I'm just curious.
I didn't have any problem with that Iraq.
Of course you didn't. Of course you didn't. Of course you didn't, because you're a coward. Of course you didn't have a problem with the war. You're the only moron on the planet that doesn't still have a problem with that war in Iraq. Let me tell you something. Tens of thousands of innocent Iraqis died. Thousands of innocent American soldiers died. And you're an idiot that goes on the radio that says you still don't have the problem with the war. You have an IQ of 10. You are an idiot. 257-5396. I got about a minute for Paul. Paul, what's going on?
What's up, Paul?
Hey, guys. Hopefully you'll let me finish without interrupting me. But I was in the military, had a top secret security clearance. And I promise you, if I had been in the military when this strike was going to go down, they would not have told me any information. Just because you have a clearance doesn't mean you have a need to know. And do you actually think that Congress, Nancy Pelosi, would have they're going to, no matter what Donald Trump is trying to do, they're going to give him a problem.
Paul, I'm up against a hard break, my friend. I'm not interrupting you, and I appreciate your service. Please call back when I have a little bit more time. But I will say this in closing, okay? If you are a family member of one of those going overseas, I believe you needed more information than there was, quote, an imminent threat. I don't think that is unreasonable. We don't need to know everything. But if you're one of those family members and one of your kids is risking their lives for this country, well, it was an imminent threat. You need more information than that, and I don't think that is unreasonable, my friend. I appreciate your service to this country. Coming up next, a man in a bus, a war veteran, punched in the face. He loses his eye, and guess what? The suspect is on the loose. Larry Hadfield with Metro Police in studio next to talk about that and much, much more. You are listening to The Vegas Take.